It's the tale of two Robs at the moment for Reading Football Club. One's pulled out, the other is still very much in, which leads us to think that Rob Brydon, Robert Downey Jr., Robert Pattinson, or Rob Zombie might just turn up waiting in the wings to buy our football club. It really is a Rob lottery at the
What?
moment.
How did you not mention Robbie Savage? Oh
What are you
my
on? He's not
word.
going to buy it, is he? Of course he's buying
Well, you never know. I don't know. I saw him with his mates at the game versus Shrewsbury last night. He looked like those guys might have a few pounds between them, couple pennies, you know?
it. Well, you never know.
Yeah.
You never know.
Yeah.
But yeah, tale of two Robs. Episode 415 of the Tilehurst End podcast. Here with my mate Ross, who you can hear is
What's up?
interjected,
Yeah.
not for the first time, in an intro that I definitely haven't written down this time, just winged it. Uh,
Nice.
you're wearing the salmon pink away shirt from
I
last
like
season.
that one.
Last season,
I don't think it was even a few seasons ago now. I think Tom Ince used to wear this bad boy. So
good
I
one.
think I think this might be the last championship season, which,
Correct.
the less said about that, the better. But I think this was the bottom part of the climate stripes,
Mm.
which is probably where we're at now, having made no impact on the climate since then, you know. So it's just the red and the panic part, basically. But I like this shirt. I like this shirt a lot.
It's a good shirt. I like the black on it.
Yeah, yeah. Macron, I can't, when we lost Puma all those years back, I was a little bit concerned, but Macron have been good, like
They've
throughout
been
throughout the time we've had them. Yeah.
very good. Yeah, and I'm looking forward to next season's kits. We look like we're approaching the end game of the ownership situation, so we'll have to see what goes on there. But it's yeah, we've got another
That's
pod.
actually that's a great. Sorry, I don't know if you meant to say that, but with the end game, that's a great that's a great word to use because we've been through the Infinity War uh,
Yeah,
over the ownership battle, obviously, and now we're reaching the end game.
it's like a cheap rip-off of the Avengers. It really
Yes.
is.
Pretty much everything that's come out of the Marvel Studios since the Avengers, just the
True.
same thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Well, look, we're going to get into it. We've got back-to-back wins. We haven't even mentioned that we've been playing football.
right.
6 points from a possible six, in the space of what, 3, 4 days. Big thanks as always to ZZ Said Films, who are our friends. I was going to say lovers. That'd have been a bit weird, wouldn't it? Not that. But
Platonic.
just that we love them. Hopefully they love us, and
Mm.
hopefully we're continuing to do them proud with this unprofessional joke of a podcast. As I said, episode 415. We're going to get straight into a double chunky recap. Right. Let's start with Wickham. Let's go in chronological order.
Yep.
Um,
We actually didn't analyze Blackpool last time too, but like forget about that one. Not
nah, I don't
interested.
remember. I don't
Don't
think we
remember.
played Blackpool, did we?
Pretty sure with that never happened. Yeah. So don't worry about that. Nah.
I'm just fiddling with. Can you hear me all right? Is it coming
Yeah.
through? Okay. You are.
Yeah,
Okay.
you're okay. Do you want me to go off on Wickham a little bit? I thought it was that first half was utterly awful. I had just woken up.
Tripe, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Butcher's tripe.
I honestly, I had just woken up and I felt like I was still asleep for much of that first half. I think both
Mm.
teams generated less than zero point 0.2 XG put together in
Yeah,
that
it's
first
dreadful.
half. Yeah, awful. Just
It kind of
statistically
felt,
awful.
and you'll correct me if I'm wrong, but it kind of felt like Wickham were more intent on not allowing us to win than they were more intent on winning the game. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I suppose. I just think neither team looked like they had much of their flow about them at all. Neither team was really able to get any passages of play going for a particularly long
Mm.
time. There were some really sloppy passes coming around from both teams. I can give you this. So, like the Shrewsbury game that we just played, Reading went 81% accurate on their passes, and like pass accuracy up and down, who cares? But just to give you an idea of the sloppiness with the Wickham game, Wickham did 68% pass accuracy and we did 73 in that game. In
They
the
were,
Peterborough game, we had 84. In the Stevenage game, we had 77. In the Wrexham game, we had 82 accuracy. So it just shows you sloppiness from both
mm.
teams in that game.
I mean, it wasn't great, was it? I mean, I watched it in a pub in Harrogate, which is
Mm.
flipping miles from here, by the way. I
That
didn't
is a
realize
long
that.
way away.
It's
Isn't that
like
Yorkshire?
sort of yeah, it's like North Yorkshire. It's the sort of drive you'd do if you were going to the shops.
Okay.
You
Yeah,
know, like
exactly.
that's the distance we're talking about. And
Right.
it was just like embarrassing's a bit strong, but it definitely wasn't one for the neutrals. Put it
I
that way.
think a lot of football players really struggle with these early kickoffs. I don't know
Mm.
if it's about like the way in which their routine works through the day or what it is, but like professional athletes, they're superstitious. They like their processes, their routines, and all these kinds of things. And I think a lot of them set up for, like that 3 o'clock is just a little bit easier and just getting your body ready to go, your mind ready to go by 12:30. I think sometimes it takes a little while to know you're in a game.
Mm.
I feel like a lot of the early games are a bit dull. And now I want to work this out. I want to see if like there's a higher goals per game average in the 3 o'clock and the 7:45 kickoffs versus 12:30. That might be an interesting one for the future.
Well, I mean, Wickham overall, if you look at the stats, the raw stats,
The raw stats.
they were superior in every department. 51% possession. Not that really means anything these days because it's quite close to 49%, which is what we had, which totals 100, which is what percentages are out of. 17 shots in total, four on target. I mean, were we lucky in the game? Like,
Yeah, a little
would you
bit.
would you look at that and go, yeah, actually, that's a get out of jail free card, definitely put down on the Monopoly board. And I guess the second question to that is, at that point, Wickham were just about still in the race for automatic promotion.
Yeah.
I would say after last night's results, they're out of that now. I think it's obviously Birmingham have gone up, but it's Wrexham's to lose. And that should be confirmed either Saturday or the next game they play, really. But
Right.
did Wickham look like a team that's basically spent most of the season at the top end of the table?
I don't think so. But that said, I think that Reading are a team that can match. Reading are a team that do a good job of canceling out other teams quite
Mm.
often. I think that when they play against I don't know, it's really weird, isn't it? Because like again with this game against Shrewsbury last night, they had a period where they looked pretty bad. But when we play against these bigger teams like Wrexham and Wickham, sometimes it feels like at least the solidity of the performance is a little bit I don't know, just a little bit better against like Wickham, against Wrexham, against. Well, then again, we just lost to Blackpool too. I don't even know what am I saying. No, Wickham didn't look particularly like a team that's been challenging all season. But I think they've been on a few good streaks throughout the season, and they've had some interesting. They've had a good time when their passages of play and their style of play wasn't quite as well known around the league, and I think that teams just catch up, and we've seen this with Wing, like teams have caught up to how we like to use him, and so we have to deploy him in different ways. And I imagine part of what's going on is that teams are just caught up to what Wickham are doing, and it's easier to shut that down, whereas with Wrexham, who look like they're going to go up now, they just have more options. They have our old option, they have, a bunch of different options for attacking. Even with old men, right? They have your Stephen Fletcher or your J Rod, who are pretty different players. So, and then what you said
Yeah.
about are we getting lucky? Yes, a little bit for
I
sure.
think I think we got lucky against Wickham. I
Yeah.
do feel obviously debate the penalty all you want really.
I
But
think we've gotten some lucky penalty stuff in the last couple of weeks, but please
yeah.
carry on with what you were
Well,
saying.
was it a penalty?
No.
Yeah, okay.
Was the
Well,
penalty
let's
the
go with no.
Wareham? Yeah, and the
Let
Wrexham
let's
one
go with no.
too. I don't think that's a
Yeah,
penalty either. So,
but we've done all right recently, and I think when you look at the balance of the game, I think I would have been happy with a draw for sure. Like I don't think either team was particularly enthusiastic, shall we say, about trying to
no,
win the game.
no.
But if you get a penalty, the one man you want to take is Harvey Knibbs, and it was a fantastic penalty. It really cool as you like, and that's what we've come to expect from him from the death spot recently. He's been
Yeah,
absolutely fantastic. He's not going to miss those, and I think we've obviously sort of fallen to Shrewsbury organically now, but there is a confidence in that group. You
definitely.
take Blackpool out because what was it, the first loss in 11, 12 games or something,
Yeah,
and it was a pretty hefty pasting, to be honest. But then you look at it, Blackpool have been in great form,
yeah,
so it's a very, very difficult. These are very difficult games to judge in kind of isolation in terms of the overall picture of what other teams are doing. But I was absolutely delighted with the win on Saturday, as I'm sure everyone listening to this who is of a Reading persuasion was. It was it that is the kind of result that gets you in the playoffs, and that
Yeah.
is the kind of result that might just see you over the line in that kind of mini tournament of the playoffs themselves, if and when we get there. So really, really pleased with it. Really pleased that we kind of kept their key players, reasonably quiet. Kone's been fantastic this season. I really, really like Josh Scowen. I think he's a good player. Adam Reach, obviously our old boy Gareth McCleary, who is only
Still
now starting to
starting.
get his flowers. Yeah, but he's only now starting to get his flowers from our fan base.
Mm.
And he was
Yeah,
great for us.
I was thinking about, how he would have gone if he'd stuck around for,
Yeah.
for a little bit longer. Because I know we almost chased him out, I feel like. And so yeah, just like kind of what could have been if he'd stuck around a little bit longer. We couldn't have known that we were going to go down to League One, and he would have
No.
become immediately quite useful again at that level. And I think that, by that point, the bridges had probably been burned, so it wasn't going to go
Yeah.
well here from a personal standpoint. But it's just annoying, like clearly we could have gotten, if we wanted to, another 5 years out of Gareth McCleary.
I think so.
And
But
that's the
he's a very
frustrating
proud
thing.
man, and I can't, I would have done exactly the same. Obviously I love the club, and I think I've said this before on the pod, but he did a lot of stuff behind the scenes that no one really noticed, and the wider fan base didn't notice particularly. So I was always very disappointed with the reaction that he used to get from our fans, definitely.
Mm, mm.
But from our point of view, it was another 3 points. I can't even remember if it pushed us back into the playoffs at that point. I don't know. What we
I
do
think we
know
were
now is
one out at that point. I
the
think we
one
were
out.
one out, maybe. Who knows?
What we do know now, fast forward to Wednesday evening, as we're recording this pod, is that less than 24 hours prior to this pod, we go to Shrewsbury, a lovely part of the world if you've not been, and pull out a 3-1 win,
Yeah.
which at times did not look like that was going to happen. Talk us through the main points there, and specifically why you gave Harvey Knibbs a 7 and Charlie Savage a 6.
I wanted to give Harvey Knibbs an 8 too, and Sim wouldn't let me. And you're in our, group chat with that, so you can see, the kind of, obviously, like I'm in charge of the ratings, but I always run them by, the dons of the Tilehurst end world, just to see kind of if I'm completely off. I thought Knibbs was amazing last night. I think more in the second half. But I'll start
Better than
my
Charlie Savage last night, was he?
definitely, yeah. Really,
Two
really
assists.
important.
He got double the touches.
Doesn't matter. Like, did you see some
Oh,
of their
don't shrug.
wins?
Honestly,
Like,
one day Robbie Savage is going to come on this pod and he's gonna
nah.
put you on toast.
Well, that's probably the case, yeah. But no, I thought that Nibs was brilliant last night. Like some of the wins were really, really important. Reading have stopped winning the ball high. Like I was looking
Mm.
through their Y Scout has a really good stat for recoveries, like low, mid, high. And if you look at us versus Shrewsbury versus Wickham, they got more high recoveries than us, both those teams. So Reading just aren't really doing that whole like pressing thing particularly well anymore. So where can they win the ball? Well, they can win it in the middle. And Nibs was really, really important to kind of moving the ball forward in situations whereby they were kind of able to like get it into almost like a scrum of people and then get it out
Mm.
and get cleanly down. And there were a couple interactions with a Hibachiman, especially like within the first 5 minutes. Nibs put a Hibachiman through, and we had a shot on goal from that. I believe in the build up, maybe to the second goal, Nibs won the ball in that particular instance as well. So I just thought this was like one of those performances where Nibs was briefly able to wind it back to the kind of high press or mid block press is but probably a better phrase. Actually, he was really effective last night, and their midfielders really had no idea how to deal with him. I think he won all but one challenge every night. He also completed the most of all the players on the field. I believe he won the most challenges. He also completed the most dribbles. So basically, he was picking up the ball and then immediately driving it down the field over and over again. And then secondly, sun's out, guns out. Lovely day looked like when it started yesterday, and Nibsy boy no longer in the long sleeves.
Long sleeves.
Yeah, yeah, he was just I don't know, like I definitely think that like Wing and Savage probably had more moments of pure quality in the game. But I just think that this was one of those classic Nibs games where he's able to just seize a game by the scruff of its neck. He won 6 out of 6 ground duels last night. So basically, if Nibs came near you in a 50-50, you might as well have not been there because you weren't winning the ball. So just imperious is the only word to describe it. Yeah, Savage
I
good
mean,
too, but yeah, loved it.
it was a game for midfielders.
It
Really, it was
was,
last
yeah,
night. And you know, if we talk about those three as a unit, it
brilliant.
has to be one of the, if not the best midfields in the division. Has to be. 55 goal contributions from all three of them, 20 for Nibs. Savage got two last night. Obviously, the first one, it technically is an assist because he passed the ball to Lewis Wing. Well, the less said about their goalie, the better, really, bless him.
He was really good against us at home as well too, but we just got the karma this
I
night and he
mean,
was
he was
shocking.
all over the shop. He was
Yeah,
really bad.
yeah,
So yeah, Nibs 20, Savage 18, Wing 17. So it has to be, and bear in mind they were free. They didn't cost anything.
yeah.
That that you know that particular midfield
Again,
cost.
it's the recruitment. What's his name? Brian Carey. Like
Yeah.
he's the guy we want for the summer. Reading, if like we want to talk to anyone, I mean, we always want to talk to players. We love that. It's fun. But I think Brian Carey deserves his flowers, and then so he deserves this whole shrubbery, for
A
kind of how
bush, a big
he's
fat bush.
a big fat bush for, well, hang on a minute. For how
Oh yeah,
he's
right. Tree, just tree, big
just
fat
a
tree then.
tree. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But I mean that's
Remarkable.
absolutely incredible, really.
Yeah, yeah.
And you have to consider it in terms of the cost element there. Birmingham have just been promoted.
Yeah.
See you later. But when you spend that amount of money, they have to do that. Wrexham obviously spent big, but I just don't think any other midfield in the division touches them.
Hmm,
And
hmm.
it's even more remarkable when you consider the issues, and they are issues that we've had with the front three since Sam Smith has left.
I'm glad
Um,
you're just about to bring that up because I think the front three deserves some discussion. I think last
yeah.
night gave us the most like for like comparison for Wareham and Kelvin.
Uh,
Now, mind you, we are hearing some rumors that perhaps Wareham is being put on late in games as part of some sort of tactic from Noel, or that he is being kept out from starting as some sort of way to
are
wind
they, are they, are
Wareham
they
up.
rumors or are they
We
confirmed?
don't know if they're confirmed, do we? They're rumors. This is the things
Right.
we hear. The world of Twitter is wonderful. I'm not even on it. But
You've just given the game away now.
yeah, no, exactly. But anyway, like the reason I wanted to highlight this, I thought it was a great game to do it because I just don't think Calvin is able to win too much in the air. We've talked about that a lot before. He did have a good win, and I even wrote that into the ratings last night in the first half, but he also had some of the ball bounced off him. But then you see him go out to the left and immediately scores possibly his best goal ever for the club. There's a real bit of Lucas Schwau about him in the way that he can saunter across the box and somehow avoid any just little touches on the ball or something like that to move it away from him. And I think he just showed immediately why he's so much better from that position. Wareham, brilliant too. One of the things that I wrote into the ratings that I think is most pertinent, I want to pull out. Wareham actually beat Sam Smith's averages for touches and touches in the box in one half of football yesterday. So he beat Sam Smith's averages for 90 minutes for Reading this season in 45 minutes. Look, we want Wareham to score more goals. I think it has been a little while now since he scored a goal, but I think that you can't deny it. He was crucial. I think to the third goal, the Chem Campbell one, where Nibs has won the ball and then begun driving forward with it. Again, Nibs winning the ball and creating a chance. He's put it across to Wareham, and Wareham has almost gotten onto it. But I just thought he was great. Like he's just such a pain in the arse to deal with if you're a defender, and you've spent, however long dealing with Kelvin, who's such a different player. And now you have this, I think I called him before the Miley Cyrus wrecking ball lad just jumping around the place, smashing himself into you. Like he's just a pain in the neck, Wareham.
I mean,
Yeah,
50 appearances now
for
for Jade.
Wareham.
Last night was his 50th. So that's quite incredible
Yeah.
when you consider, first of all, how quickly the games go in this division,
Hmm.
generally, you know, but also it's still got so much to do in the game, you know,
Yeah.
and I mean I really like Wareham. I really like him. I liked him when I saw him, you know, regularly for the under 21s or whatever they were called last season. I know that Noel Hunt, we've talked about this before on a pod, but I know that Noel Hunt really, you know, does tend to quite like him. So it's it's an interesting one. I'm a big fan of Kelvin. For me, the sticking point, and I said this last week, is Kamara. You know, if there is literally anyone else who is regularly involved in football, they come in for Kamara for me. And
Who's regularly involved in football?
yeah,
It's
you
Sepp
know, and
Blatter.
well, this is it. But like, you know, I really want to like him. I really want him to succeed. With every passing game, very similar to Billy Bowden. I just don't see it. I just don't see
Are you not even
what
going to highlight Billy Bowden's little deft disallowed chip
I
over the
couldn't
keeper
believe it.
from
Do you know what?
last
I'd
night?
written the match report. I was about to hit send,
Oh
and
yeah,
then he
yeah,
scored. And then I started typing a sentence, and then Blimmin' Lino put his flag up, and I was like,
yeah.
God, stop messing with my word count.
I did like that he
But
was
like,
halfway into the stand before people had to tell him, goal
and
doesn't
it
count,
look,
Billy.
you know, I've always felt you're only as good as your weakest link, right? You know, the goal shouldn't be to buy superstars without sounding like Moneyball. The goal should be to buy players that infinitely make your group better rather than
Hmm.
buying superstars and Galacticos and all this kind of stuff. And for me, Kamara and it just doesn't work. And I
Sure.
don't know why. I don't know why.
Yeah, no, I
Um,
think the front three in the second half was better, and I think Kamara's lucky not to get sent off right at the end of the first half too, with the kind of dive in when he was already on a yellow card. Last thing I'll say on Wareham and Kelvin, I really like both of them. I'm glad to hear that Wareham's got up to 50 appearances already. I do think that, if the ownership gets done, then new attackers will be something that need to be brought into the team because we need
Priority,
some guys, yeah,
absolute
with
priority.
some experience. And that's where the rubber's going to meet the road again with Wareham, is that right now I think what he's doing is he's proving that he can do all of the work that a striker needs to do off the ball and in build up, and for the 80% of his touches which are outside of the box, like he's proving that he can do that and he can be pretty useful. He actually was a big part of the build up for that disallowed fourth goal. It was Wing who made the pass that ended up being offside. What they both need to show, if they want to continue to be with Reading and get another 50 appearances, is consistent goal scoring. Because at the end of the day, for as much as you get everywhere else, and I do think that stuff is more important to creating an all-round player. Strikers don't get chances without scoring goals. So, they don't get chances to be in the team for a long period. Sorry. I mean, yeah, you need chances to score goals, obviously, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, and I you know, all of we could sit here and talk about formations and we could sit and talk about players, but none of that really matters because the state of play now is that most of the division has played 41 games. So everyone, I think by next Tuesday, everyone will be up to date in terms of all the games played and stuff like that, which will, as always happens, it kind of goes into the last 3 or 4 games where everyone's on a level pegging in terms of the games played. We've completed our 41st game. We are on 68 points. We are 2 points clear of Bolton, who are in seventh. They're on 66. You know, we're sat in sixth, and at the moment, and as others have pointed out, it's ours to chuck away. It
Yeah.
really is. Um, so we will have to see what happens there. I had a little look at the kind of run-ins between us and Bolton, and I'm using Bolton really as an example at the moment because
Work.
Huddersfield are 4 points away from us at the moment.
I was going to say, if you go to my Blue Sky, I put up both the Huddersfield
Okay.
and the Bolton rundowns, and I think that we have the easiest
Yeah.
run in for sure. I think that the only teams that we have left at that time in the top half, I think, were Lincoln. And Barnsley were in the top half at that point, but they've since slipped to 13th place. I think both of those teams are pretty, on the beach. Is that still a phrase that's in
Yeah.
use? On the beach? Yeah, I think those two are pretty on the beach. And, if it's going to get to kind of depend on what performances we get out of the teams that are even lower down the table now, kind of what we get when we show up. Like Shrewsbury, I think they had some energy. They were trying to show their fans that they're still scrapping to stay up,
Yeah, last
obviously.
chance to lean for them last night, really.
Right. But I think you could tell that like once they got their first goal, emotionally they were just gone. And after we got there, after we immediately replied, it was just kind of, oh, come on, here we go. Like they look like a team that are waiting for something bad to happen, rather than a team that's proactively trying to do something.
Yeah, I mean they really are. What are they? 13 points adrift now.
Oh yeah, they're a long way down. So
In
yeah.
terms of getting the last safe spot in inverted commas. Obviously we'll talk about Northampton in the preview later on in the pod, but they're barring an absolute collapse from them and a wonder turn of events from Burton, they're safe.
Yeah.
They're not going to do anything there really. They're going nowhere very quickly, and I think that's a really good um, that's a really good next game to have without jinxing it and being respectful to Northampton because we just have to keep picking up points. And I think the run that we're on, what have we lost? One game in
14
13,
now, maybe
14?
14 now. Yeah.
That's a great run.
Good time to
Given
do it too. Like this is how some of the Reading promotion runs in the past have been built, right? The 2011 run. I feel like we were pretty mid-table average until about what November, December, and then
yeah,
started turning on the burners after that. And so yeah, I mean like you want to grow into the seat. You want to be like Italy at a tournament. You want to grow into it.
you do. You always want to
Um
be like Italy, put it that
yeah,
way.
exactly. And with regards to the championship, we're also like Italy at a tournament. We're not there. So yeah, that's
I saw some people chatting about, oh, like what about the playoff positions? But ultimately, whether you're third or sixth, it doesn't matter. You
no,
just got to get in there because they're all, cliche, but they're going to be very, very difficult games. I guess if you're looking at it, there might be teams that you want to avoid. Stockport,
we've
Haya.
talked about Stockport.
Um,
Yeah, they're the only one. The other teams in that group haven't beaten us this season. Wickham and Charlton haven't beaten us this season, so I'm not
but
really concerned about them. One of the
the
things
season
that
ends
I
now. We,
yeah, go
we end
ahead.
up with Wickham over two legs.
Fine.
Thank you very much. Yeah,
Yeah,
no
we'll have
worries
that.
at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. I would say the thing that I like about Noel and why I feel relatively confident if we go into the playoffs is that I think that he has a better sense than Sellers did of how 90 minutes is quite a long time and a lot
Mm.
can happen in 90 minutes. And by the end of the game, against Shrewsbury last night, I hardly remembered the 25 minutes where Shrewsbury were completely on top and looked like they would definitely win that game because, an hour later, they're nowhere near it. They're like Reading are so far away. And so I feel like Noel just does a decent job of understanding when it's time to shut up shop and just be a little bit more casual. I don't know, I just feel like he's got a better sense of like game management and playing what Bill Belichick, the old coach of the Patriots, would call situational football,
Mm.
than Sellers did. I think Sellers always wanted to do his way or the highway, and I liked his way, but I can see the benefits in how Noel has us playing.
I mean, huge similarities with how McDermott set us up, um, to get us promoted in 2012 or whatever. But
Mm.
I, I don't know. Does it matter about the performances? No, you just get results
No,
now.
you just
Like
get
we're in
results
the
at this
dog days
point.
of it. If we were again go back to them, but if we were Birmingham, we'd spend that money. You'd expect a brand of football for the money that you'd spent on those players, and you'd want to
Yeah.
get promoted at the earliest opportunity, which is what they've done. From our point of view, I don't think we're the imposter in the room at all.
No.
And I think we're very, very, I think, you look at those four teams at the moment, and from our point of view, you don't want to play Stockport because they've been very, very good this year. And
Yeah.
they've got a lot of other teams' numbers. Bolton, for example, they've done a number on them, a few times. So it's difficult to start cherry picking the games. If you're going to be in the playoffs, you just got to get on with it. And statistically, we've been all right in the semis. It's just the flipping final that we've got an issue with.
Yeah,
But,
yeah,
I mean, I was asked, someone asked me today, would I want to end up in the playoffs? Yeah, of
yeah,
course.
hell yeah.
Like always, the only issue is that if we don't make it, it raises the expectations for next season, especially if there's stability and there's very strong possibility that we won't get there again, next season. So yeah, I would for this group, from a emotional point of view, from the fan base, for the club, for the staff at the club, for Noel Hunt, it would be fantastic for us to get promoted. And I think a
Yeah.
lot of those players would choose to re-sign on. What did you say? 16, 17 players a couple of weeks ago that are out of contract.
Yeah, it's a
If
lot
we,
of
if we
them.
go
Yeah.
up, a lot of them, I think, choose to stay for sure.
Yeah,
So
I think so.
you'd want to keep this group together and you'd want to see them test themselves at a much higher level, which the championship is increasing by the season in terms of that gap between championship and League One as the kind of the promotion and relegation positions have shown. But yeah, let's get in the playoffs. Let's just go
Yeah.
and do it. Let's just go and
Yeah.
get it done.
I'll bring back briefly what Noel said when we spoke to him in December. He talked a lot about winning the fight, then winning the battle, and then winning the war. And kind of I think what
Mm.
he means by that is I don't know, is just like, winning your little things that go on the game, and then that contributes to a 10-minute period, and then that 10-minute period, contributes to the final result. If you win your duel, or win a bunch of duels for like 5 minutes, maybe you help contribute to a better attacking period on your side of the pitch for 5 to 10 minutes, and maybe that 5 to 10 minute spell results in a goal that then impacts the game. And I think kind of that speaks to Noel's understanding that football is about moments. And little things that can happen. And that was what this Wickham game was, right? Like it was pretty much a 0-0 game,
Yeah.
where the moment in the game went for us. Whereas you remember that game earlier in the season, I think we lost where Boyce Clark let the ball through him. I think that was against
Mhm.
Leyton Orient, and we lost. And that's one moment. It's one moment in like a 0-0 game that we lost. So I think, again, talking about that sense of game management, I just think I like the way that Hunt has a sense of what actually wins games at this level, because it is a low level, and I think that a lot of it is just these moments, these flashes of quality, these flashes of the keeper having a panic attack like Shrewsbury's keeper last night.
Mm.
So yeah, my arm's all
Yeah, I
over the
mean,
place today.
no,
Watch the YouTube podcast. My arm
yeah,
is
yeah,
doing
there you
this,
go.
like I'm drawing figures of eight and stuff with my left arm. Anyway,
I just think it's a really good opportunity to get in there.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and I hope we get it. I really hope we get it. A couple of weeks ago, I think we literally just said they called the pod playoffs on or playoffs off, and I was like, nah, it's done now, it's finished. But here we are, middle of April, come up to the middle of April, we're in sixth place, 2 points clear of seventh, and it's basically ours to get rid of.
yeah.
So yeah, we're gonna get into the mailbag. There's really only one place to start with the mailbag. We're going to get into that now. Read out some things that listeners and fans have said over the past few hours about the statement, and then give our own
Are
opinions
you
on it.
making it clear that we're reading out things that fans have said so that we're not legally liable for it?
No, no, I don't think any of it's legal. I mean, I think it's good to have opinions, isn't it?
It is. It's always good to. It was a quiet mailbag.
It was
It was
very
a mail, a sparse mailbag. So this
yeah,
is a good one.
a
So yeah,
male teaspoon.
a mail teaspoon. Thank you. There we go.
Yeah, we're going to get into the mailbag or whatever you want to call it. Listeners' corner this week for sure. Right now. Welcome back to episode 415 of the Tilehurst podcast. I know you've got the number then. Been a bit
That's
awkward.
good. You actually, I wrote it down as 415 last week, to be fair, and then realized I got it wrong. So you're doing better than me.
I'm doing all right. I
Yeah.
had to check a popular music streaming service to
Right.
work out what number we were. I never remember. Stupid, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, unless you've been living under a rock this morning, today, um, you will have seen yet another statement from the club, which you can't knock. You can't knock the transparency in terms of the way in which they're getting this information out. Exclusivity has ended with, I mean, they didn't say it, but we know it's Rob Platic.
Who knows?
Is that right?
Friendship ended with Rob, whatever it is.
He's gone. Rob P's gone. He's out.
Yeah.
Finished. For whatever reason. However, the club are in advanced talks with another party And again, if you put in two and two together and you like maths, you should come up with four, and you would imagine that that is Rob Coig. That's not been confirmed by anyone, of course not, wouldn't be, but we do look like we're approaching
I
the end
think the
game.
Guardian, just sorry, Ben, I think the Guardian released an article today that,
They did.
again,
Yeah.
while it didn't confirm anything, it heavily, heavily implied to the point that it was willing to name Rob Couig in there as the probable new, person who is in negotiations with the club.
There you go. So if you pay for the Guardian, you can get that online. We don't, so I don't.
I think it's
But
free.
oh, is it?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
there
It's
you go. I'll
free.
shut my
You
mouth
can
then.
read
There you
that
go.
one. To be fair to you, Ben, there are
Most
it's
of them
been
are though,
hard.
aren't they? Most of them are behind a
No, you're
paywall.
right. Yeah, they're behind a silly paywall because, we want to keep news out there and make sure people have got the right information, but also please pay. It will be hard not to hear what Rob Coig has been saying in the last few weeks because that man has been doing a media tour on various podcasts and things like that.
You have to respect the PR machine.
I kind of do. He's pulling it's almost like he's just released a film and he's going around, talking to whoever does the film reviews now for Radio 1 or whatever it is and all the different radio stations.
I mean, look, there is. It's probably easy for me to start with my opinion, and then Ross will, I guess, chip in with his own without putting him on the spot.
Sure.
What do I think of Coig? I At this point, I don't care who owns the club. I
Yeah.
really, really don't. We know as football fans that nothing is forever, and I've always said to anyone who will listen is that I don't support the owner, I don't support the manager, don't really support the players. Obviously I have my favourites and like them, but all of that comes and goes. The actual institution is the thing that I'm aligned with and I support.
Yeah.
So if there is a choice between Rob Coig or no club, definitely going with Rob Coig. I'm putting everything into that because my effort goes on Reading Football Club as an organisation. As I'm sure most other people feel. So
Yeah.
you know, it's the part of me has to admire the resilience of the man and the um, legal presence to be able to effectively see this through. The other part of me, and this is not on him, but it's on Dye, is that actually, we could have had, I say, a successful season. I think we have had a successful season, but a lot of the heartache, a lot of the stress, a lot of the wasted time would have been avoided if they'd been able to get this done in the summer when it looked like a dead cert, you know.
Yeah.
So that's not really on Coig, I don't think. That's my opinion anyway. I I think it's really difficult for someone new coming in, a little bit like a manager. You don't judge them after what, 3 or 4 games. You tend to judge them if they've lasted that long after a couple of months. We're,
Right.
we're in a position where we can judge Noel Hunt now and say, actually, yeah, this is working. This isn't so good, blah, 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 blah. It's the same with ownership. You can't, until they've completed a season, you can't really say where you feel and where you're at with stuff. I mean, people going about, oh, I did this, Wickham did that, but we're a very different club to Wickham,
Right.
and I think there are concerns, but there are concerns with any change that happens at any football club at any point. So for me, and I'm sure other people listen to this as well, I just want a resolution to this where we can just focus on talking about the front three, or we can talk about the fullbacks, or we can talk about where we are on the pitch all the time and what the club can do with building blocks that they're given by the ownership to move stuff forward off the pitch in terms of match day and shirts and all this kind of stuff. So I don't have a particular personal preference on who takes the club. I think it will be all right. I
Yeah.
don't think, well, it can't be any worse, can it? So
Well,
that's kind of where I
can.
sit.
It can always be worse. But like, what do I mean? Like, I really do think that fans should try and go listen to some of what Rob Koch has been saying on these various podcasts and things over the past week or two, because he has been very, very candid. He's spoken about a lot of the items over the past, year that have been on people's minds. And obviously, he kind of first became, or Reading fans first kind of became aware of him for the most part during the training ground debacle. And that was kind of the first things that we heard. And then I think also throughout the time that he was perhaps under exclusivity or whatever, there were rumors about what might happen with the academy. There were rumors about his role with what was going on with the women's team at the time and things like that as well. The reason I bring those up is because he talks about all of those in these interviews and things like that. And I don't say that to say go and listen to him. He's telling you exactly what's going on. But I think that he's making his pitch again to Reading fans, and he's trying to do it in a more um I don't know. He's trying to do it in a more eloquent way this time. He's trying to explain what is going on a little bit more, what his goal is for the club and things like that. So I think there were some concerns about his plans for the academy at the time and his feelings about the women's team, perhaps how they relate to the profitability of those ventures and whether they work as businesses themselves. Because I think
Mm.
Koeg has talked before that that is something, the club functioning as a business is something that he believes is important, as an owner. Now, myself as a coach, as a player, as a fan, I have some slightly different feelings about how that works, but I concede that these are businesses and they need to operate, with income and all these kinds of things. So I think that was just hearing him talk about those instances was really interesting and actually gave me kind of like a sense of okay, maybe I can think more about kind of what happened there and everything that's going on and the way in which news is able to get out to fans and who is controlling the channels, and all these kinds of things. Now, Koeg obviously has a pretty vested interest in, getting his side of the story over. But I do, again, like you just said, respect the PR game and that he's actually getting out there and doing it and that he's actually trying to stick around and that he's been put through the ringer and he is still here. So he clearly has some interest. And what I'm coming back to now and taking a little bit more seriously is that sort of that line in his lawsuit about how much profit he could have made with the club.
Mm.
The reason that kind of interests me now is because I think that alongside the talk about how Reading, so he said that Reading should be a mid to higher level championship club that competes for the Premier League and it already has the resources, he has said, to be that club. So it just needs to be better run. And I think that alongside kind of some of the stuff he's talked about profit, it's almost like dribbling out bits of what his actual plan for the club is. And regardless of whether you agree with what his plan for the club is, he seems to have one. And whatever he did at Wickham as well, that seemed
So,
to progress them and move them forward through the EFL. So
so
I
what I
yeah.
just to sorry, no, go on,
I was just
finish.
going to finish by saying, while I'm not, fully behind this one particular person's plan, and this is the definite plan, I have
Mm.
more respect for people who have put together a plan and said, this is what we're going to do. And I think that you're starting to see elements of that plan come out. So I do recommend that people go and try and watch some of what Coeg has been saying in the last few weeks.
I mean, I don't ever remember paying too much attention to the Wickham sale process, but at the
No.
same time, I don't ever remember hearing about it until it was actually sold. So it's not like this guy is difficult in terms of I want to get rid of something and I want to sell it, so I'm going to
And
sell
he
it.
sold it to an
Right?
owner who's got them running pretty well as well. So,
Exactly right. So he's not going to be at Reading Football Club for the next 10 years. You
mhm.
know, I would be gobsmacked if that happens. He's going to want to look to spin it and move it on, which is what we had with Geneva, which is what we had with other people that are interested. And people are like, well, that's fine. Of course it is. That's the nature of football currently. You look before we had Dye, how many different people we had owning the club in a very short space of time. But what he will recognize, and what I think he recognizes based on listening to him, is the need to clean house quite heavily, to restructure everything, and to look at things very forensically in terms of business to get us back into a situation where we can do all the things that fans want us to do. You know,
Hmm.
if you said, right, do you know what? the aim of the academy is to survive. So the next player we sell, we want to move them for 3 million. That money goes back into running the academy for X amount. The more we do that, the more money we will make that will then be reinvested back into the playing squad itself. So actually, if that's a transparent business model that we're looking to do, and I'm not saying that's what he wants to do, but it could be an option. Great. He has put himself out there in terms of talking to be blunt, quite random podcasts and quite random radio stations recently. But what have we said about Dye? He's not transparent, he doesn't talk to anybody. If this guy is prepared to do that on a regular basis, that's kind of what we wanted, right? As a
Even when
majority
I
of
didn't
families.
agree with him watching him,
Yeah,
I respected he's saying it with his chest, to use a phrase that you like.
yeah,
Like he's
he
not
does.
hiding. Like he's being very American. Like he's just saying it out front what he wants. And yeah, I do think that I think that we do as fans need to be vigilant to when those plans might not align fully with what we as a community asset want for the club, and what we want for the community asset. And I do think that this season and last season have shown we talked about how good Brian Carey's recruitment has been, but
Mm,
we might not have stayed up without the academy. That has supplied so many important players over the last 2 years who have gone on to, do pretty well. And again, Michael Olise's fee is basically keeping the club alive, or has done at certain points.
yeah,
So I do think that, whenever we're thinking about, oh, the academy hasn't made a profit for X years, yeah, but it could suddenly make all of that money back like that. So like, you have to be careful with that.
exactly right.
Football is a really volatile market, and it's tough to sometimes align the business thought with, football thought, because it is so volatile. And so I don't even know. It's all over the place. It's like the
And that
American
there
stock
are
exchange.
there are still areas of the club that you look at and go, from a callous point of view, is that an essential job for someone to be doing? Do
Right.
they need to be paying? And I'm not going to start listing departments and examples here, but there are people there, and you think, is that important? Like, do
Right.
we,
Like Ben at the
have
community trust. We need to get rid of Ben at the community trust because he's awful.
they're run separately, and I do very little for them.
All right. All right.
I should be doing more, but whatever. But the point is that it does need someone to come in and look at it and say, how much are we spending it? What are
You
we
sound
getting
like
back?
Elon. You get us a little bit worried. This is your department of RDG efficiency.
Well, but it is about sustaining. It is about looking at it and saying, what is the plan here with any organization? You have to be really clear on that. And we've not been clear for a long time. Dye came in, he chucked a heck of a lot of money, didn't work out. We are where we are, and that's, no one wants to go down that road again. Of course, it'd be great to sign a player for a fee, but actually, we've proved that we can do it with £0. you
Right.
know, and we haven't. All right, officially, we haven't done it. We're not there, but considering where we thought we were going to be and where we actually are right now, as of the what is it, the 9th of April, it's remarkable.
As I've
Um,
reminded people many times in the last couple of weeks,
yeah.
Ben, I think you'll find that I predicted Reading to
Well,
make
right,
the
you said it.
playoffs
Yeah, fine.
this
Okay, that
season.
is.
So
Yeah,
this
okay,
is
that
not
is true.
unexpected
Yeah,
at all. This is
I'll take
completely
that one.
no, I'm still shocked. Like I think I put it in my why you should watch Reading. I'm still like astounded by how well the season has gone for sure.
Yeah, and I'm not, going back to my first point, I'm not going to be one of those people that goes, "Well, if Rob Cobb's own the club, then I'm not going to ever go again." Like, that's just a childish viewpoint to have.
If he brings
It's
the reindeers back, I'll be there every week. Can we get reindeers in May as well as December? That's what I want. I like the deer. I like
okay.
being able to see animals outside the field, outside the game beforehand. As many animals do you like? Bring Finkley Down Farm. Other farms are available, I'm sure.
That's
I don't
true.
know.
Yeah, that is
Yeah.
true. I mean, I put something up on X, basically. If it's RC, how are you feeling? And there was a huge influx of comments. I think we're up to about 25, 26 now.
Okay, so what we learned is that people are feeling. Yeah.
Yeah, and I and
Mhm.
I think that's test. Obviously we've always said that the X isn't a true reflection of the fan base, but it's a good barometer, I think,
Sure.
of where people are. Um, Same with phone-ins on BBC Berkshire when people ring up, it represents a specific group and demographic of fans. But there is there is strength of feeling here, and I think that's testament to how much people still care and how
Yeah.
much people still fully invested in what is essentially or has been a complete shit show for a long period of time. Um, I mean, there's loads to read on here. Chris, he says, as I've said before, he's got some making up to do, whether it's his fault or not. The initial sit down interview he does as the new owner needs to win people over. It's a really good point because there will be people like, well, who's this guy? Like he's ruined it, rah. And actually, what he says in that first interview, and there will be a first interview because he's that kind of guy,
Who
is
that
going to be right.
interview happens with could be quite interesting. Just a heads up. I'm not going to say anything, but just the one. I can't remember what the name of the pod is. I apologize, but the pod he did with I'll go look up the name now. But the pod he did with Joe Jacobson. Let's just say that he has some choice words in there for a few people, which makes me wonder who would be conducting some of those interviews.
Reckon
It
we get
could.
it. We might get it.
Oh
Imagine
no,
that.
it could be our buddy Ryan. He said I know he interviewed Harvey
He,
last week, which is cool.
he did, yeah. He this would have to be an official thing though, wouldn't it? He'd have to go through the official channels.
Yeah, so it
Um,
might be Ryan.
but yeah, look,
Yeah.
people keep receipts.
Yeah.
People keep receipts. Even in our very small world, I keep receipts. So, and I'm sure you do as well, Ross. It's one of those you don't forget about things that people have said and how they've acted. And he's right to do that. I think there were some people within the media, shall we say, that have not covered themselves in glory at all.
Yeah.
And this is prerogative to go after them. Andy Taylor, maybe after selling the ship, he'll sell us in a couple of years and make a profit, and fair play to him. But realistically, he can't be any worse in the short term anyway. Yeah, uh,
Yeah, at least
you
he has a
can't knock
track.
that.
No,
It's
it's
true.
tough. Yeah, like with the Wickham stuff, it's tough to deny that he's got a track record of doing all right for a
Yeah.
club, you know. So yeah, I think if it does happen, then that's when we need to talk to the Wickham fans again. And I know that right now, the rivalry between us and Wickham is probably as fierce as it's been in quite a long time.
Mm.
So maybe they'll want to talk to us after the season is over. But I do think that really we can like sit here and feel things, and we're going to keep going through these feelings, obviously. But the Wickham fans would be able to give us quite an interesting perspective on what he's actually like.
Rich, Rich Sampson. Honestly, I don't mind. Do I agree with the way he's gone about this? No, but we need to get rid of Dye. Cowick has shown in the past that he communicates with fans and is quite open, something we haven't had since John. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the ties were quite, I seem to remember they were quite chatty.
And
I mean,
they
they released a
were good.
flipping video, music video for
Yeah, I was
Christ's
gonna
sake.
say I'll never ever be able to forget the Thai owners just because of the music video. And
Banging
yeah,
song, though.
still
I
my
love it.
favorite moment of this
Yeah, it's
season
great.
so far was getting Matt from the Amazons to sing it. That's my favorite moment of the season. I thought it was brilliant. Loved it.
He did well,
Absolutely.
to be
He
fair.
did
He did well.
great.
I
Like,
love
yeah.
that song. Love that song.
Yeah.
Um, what else? Richard just says extremely pleased. Jamie Whites, as long as we keep Cat 1 status, if not, then I understand that he wants to make us sustainable and cut cost of flippers for a profit, but it could affect us longer term when he's gone and our youth is in the bin, especially if we're in a higher league and need the cheaper player options. Um,
Yeah.
Bertie Blue, great sense player. Our future would be secure. Pauline, meh, but we need to sell and start a new chapter in our history. We don't have to like everyone we come across in life, though. That's a really good point.
Yeah,
That
but
is a
you
really good. That's she's right.
she's right. You don't have to like everyone, but you do.
No,
Well, actually, I suppose, do you like your football club owner ever? Is some rich, guy, like whatever? I don't know. I met Millwall's owner once. He was a perfectly nice lad.
Lee happy because it means we've still got a club that we love and never want to lose. Because
Yeah.
he's not a big Saudi millionaire. It doesn't matter. He knows how to manage and run a football club. Again, good point.
This is actually an interesting question for me as someone who lives in America right now. Is that so? Obviously, I have always been pro that when Dye goes, I would like an American owner to come in. I am biased, obviously. I am fond of America and Americans. Obviously, their role in the world right now is a little bit up and down, and I do wonder if, yeah, I do wonder what what the reputation of Americans is like in the UK right now,
But
and whether
yours is terrible.
mine's awful. But like, is there any? I mean, like, I think that people already know that like when you get Middle Eastern ownership, there are some concerns about where that money's coming from and things like that. For you, actually, is that do you think that there could be any rise in like not particularly wanting American owners, or do you think the ship's kind of or the horse is bolted there?
Uh, Are you talking about the elephant in the room in
Yeah,
terms of
well, in terms of like, and but the fact that America's being awful at the moment, and
I don't think well, I don't know. But from my point of view, I see America
yeah,
and then I see Trump. I don't see them
okay,
currently connected, if that
yeah,
makes sense.
that's fair.
Um,
That's fair.
because I mean, as I've said to you before, every time he speaks, it's absolute cinema for me. Obviously, the fact that I'm about to experience what my third global recession in 40 years or
Yeah, I
whatever,
know.
like and certainly as a homeowner, I'm like, great, this is
Yeah,
fantastic.
yeah, yeah,
I don't think I think the Saudi and kind of Middle East thing is a little bit more specific to things around culture there.
yeah.
That would be my impression of
Well, and the
that.
human rights abuses,
Exactly.
and that's where I worry is that like there are things going on in America now, but I think that you may, or that challenge human rights. I think you make a good point though that a lot of people, or that you yourself at the moment are able to see Trump and America is very different. Anyway, let's get the hell away from this. This is not a political podcast.
No. And I could go off on one about how Labour aren't Labour,
Right,
but I'm
right,
not going to do that.
cool.
I think overall the people that have commented on that are pretty positive around it. I think there were some really sensible points there, and I think throughout this process we've relied on sensible voices that have not been, on the whole, too emotional about the whole thing. I think there's been a real practical element of the fan base that's come to the fore, and I hope that that continues moving forward when the sale is done. I I think my feeling, obviously looking at the 22nd of April, and if it is Rob Coe, which we all believe it to be, as you said, the Guardian have name checked him explicitly there, or specifically, or whatever. Um, it would appear that actually the 22nd is doable in terms of a takeover of the club, and that would make for a very, very happy Easter. That bank holiday weekend for Reading fans would be quite something if that was to be confirmed on the 17th or whatever, you know, that would be unreal.
Yeah,
Absolutely unreal.
that would be nice.
And I turn 40 on Saturday. So like if it's done before then, which I don't think it will be, that would be like the best present ever.
Yeah.
Honestly, it would, because it just stops it. It just stops all of the uncertainty, all of the rumors, all of the in the know nonsense, all of this stuff just stops, just finishes, and we can get back to being a football club
I was
and
gonna say, then you can start talking. We can start talking just football again for
start talking
the
just football.
crunch time of the season.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Talking of football, let's do a very quick preview
Oh
of
wait,
North.
real quick. Yes, I want to go into the preview, but I wanted to just share the podcasts that people can check out if they wanted to. And you're right, weird podcasts that
Just
Kuig has
random.
ended up on. The first one I don't think is too random. He was on EFL today, which is a new podcast,
Boo.
I guess, run by
Boo.
we don't like okay, whatever. Well, Joe Jacobson, the old Wickham captain
I
is.
think it was more because it was the EFL rather than anything else.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah,
I
yeah.
like Joe Jacobson.
Yeah, he seems like a pretty well-spoken lad. Anyway, he spoke with Coeg on his podcast. You can find that on YouTube pretty easily if you just type in EFL3 or Rob Coeg, Reading FC. And then weirdly, he spoke to a Bournemouth podcast last week. So he spoke to the Up the Cherries in All Departments podcast. Which yeah. So anyway, very odd, but I think that they are
Bournemouth.
actually yeah, that's
Did
what I'm
you just say
saying.
Bournemouth?
Yeah, he did a podcast called Up the Cherries in All Departments, which if you don't know is Bournemouth's chant, and it's very weird. Like their version of "You Royals" is some old bloke at the top of the stand shouts "Up the cherries," and everyone in the stand goes "In all departments." It's very weird. It's very, very yeah. The Bournemouth are odd, but whatever. They got a place in my heart because my cousin works there. Anyway, shut up, Ross. Recap. Preview.
Now, hold on. Actually, so before we do that,
Ah!
we had an email.
Oh,
We didn't
sorry.
read
Yes,
that.
we did.
Um, I'm not sure if I'm in time for the mailbag this week. You're always in time. I've literally read things out on air before, and I say
Yeah.
on air, but like actually while we're doing it. Hi Ben and Ross. Hello, whoever you are.
Yeah, yeah.
I live in Ireland and was planning on booking flights for the last game of the season against Barnsley. However, I'm getting the strong urge to book instead for the weekend of the playoff final. Very presumptuous, I know, but this team are making me believe if we do get to the final and manage to not get kicked out of the Football League, what do you think the chances of getting tickets? Um,
Oh, pretty good. I
what for
feel like,
Wembley?
yeah,
Oh, easy.
yeah. Wembley's huge, isn't it? Like
I
it's
mean,
like,
I can't wait for the meltdown where we take 40,000. Everyone's like, where were you when I was the only person in the block for
yeah. There'd still
whatever?
be Robbie Savage sitting in a block by himself at the top of
It's
the
probably
whole.
me in the flipping in B13. Like,
I
I
like
don't.
Robbie's mates, by the way. They always pan to Robbie in the. If you're watching Royals TV a lot, like I am, they always pan to Robbie in the stands, and he's always there with his buddies, just having a good time.
Sat with Cham Campbell's dad last night.
Yeah, oh, was he? Okay, I was
Mm.
wondering. Yeah. Okay, nice. Wow.
And then this is where it gets. And this made me chuckle the first time I read it because it sent me flashback to earlier on in the season. There's no pressure as I accept full responsibility for my final choice. I'm also
That's
fully
good.
aware of the last match of you gave an overseas fan, i.e., going to the Wrexham game in January that didn't happen. It still makes me feel really, I don't know, it just makes me
It's
laugh.
fine. He got to see the Burnley FA Cup game. What are you worried about?
But I love the fact that they've gone, there's no pressure as I accept full responsibility for my final choice. So basically, what they're saying is if you idiots go, definitely book for the playoff final.
Yeah.
What would I do? What would I
Go to
do
the
if I could
playoff
predict that?
final. No, don't do that. You'll definitely be able to get a ticket. Wembley's huge, and I don't think they don't tend to sell out the playoff finals other than the championship one, from what I remember. There's normally space. It's huge. Like if you've never been to Wembley, it is huge. Like we
The
would need to
only,
take twice, what, 2 to 3 times our average
yeah,
home attendance to even fill our section. So
if we had, if you look at it the way it ends now, so Wickham, Stockport, Charlton, and us, the only issue would be Charlton because they they're a big club, right?
big
They're a
club in
big
London.
community, and obviously it's London as well.
Yeah.
So Wickham, no worries, they'll take about 2,000. Stockport, I mean, maybe 20 potentially. I don't even know what the
Phil Foden will be there.
population.
All I know about Stockport is that Phil Foden is from Stockport. That's
But I think you'd
everything.
be fine. I think you'd be absolutely fine, to be honest.
Yeah, I think you'll be fine. Come along to the Barnsley game. I think that's a good plan because there'll be a funny, pitch invasion when
Hayes.
we
Yeah.
accidentally miss the playoffs by like goal difference.
Well,
Uh,
because we've got, well, no, more importantly, we have a pitch invasion, we get a top 3 points, and then we knock
yeah,
out.
yeah, exactly. Actually, yeah. We literally can't invade the pitch because we'll give up our
Everyone just
playoff
don't go
spot.
on the pitch. Like,
Nobody.
stop it.
Yeah. That's
Um,
brilliant. Yeah.
And then he says, on a side note, I'm very appreciative of all the hard work you guys do. TT has been keeping me updated on all things Reading for the last 10 years, so thank you.
That's
You
nice of him
are
to say.
incredibly welcome. We very rarely get thanked and we don't expect it, but I wanted to read that bit out because we want to say thank you to you for listening and kind of absorbing all the content that we put out. And it's just nice that people like it. I really like it when people say they're living abroad or whatever, because actually it's a really nice thing to know that there's that connection there. So, really, really appreciate you listening. And yeah,
Thought
let
you were
us know
about to
what you
say,
decide to do.
just
Like,
like it
let
when
us
people
know.
tell me they're abroad because, England's full. So anyway, let's get into the preview.
Some coughing now. I definitely would never ever say that because I don't believe that. Shut up, Ross. You're gonna get us all in trouble. But yeah, no, we do massively appreciate it, and it's great that we're keeping you connected. Let us know what you want to do. We didn't really give you an answer, but like,
No, go to the Barnsley game. I think he should go to the Barnsley
oh,
game.
it's definitely okay.
Yeah,
Fine.
That'll
All
be
right.
good. That'll be good.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Cool. We're going to do the preview. Right, so welcome back to the final part of what's turned out to be a very long and wordy podcast.
Lively.
Lively, yeah, banterous. We're playing Northampton. They are they're 19th.
Yep.
They are on 46 points. They're pretty, I mean, they're not mathematically safe, but you don't see Crawley on 36 or Burton on 39 getting out of it really. I,
I
I
could
don't
see
think.
Burton maybe pulling out. They're the only one left for me though that could.
At the expense of Bristol Rovers, I don't think that's going to happen, is it?
The only reason Bristol Rovers are losing every single game right now. Like I think they're on 5 games losing streak at least. My boss at Seacoast is ex Bristol Rovers Academy, so I hear a
Oh,
lot
really?
about that. Yeah, yeah. There was actually at the Portland Hearts game last week. There was actually a main gas flag, which is an English flag. It said main gas.
No.
Yeah, gas on tour down the bottom, and it has like the Bristol Rovers flag. I'll try and get a picture of it for you next time.
Blimey.
But yeah, the gas are they're up here in Maine. Anyway, I
Well,
could see Bristol
okay.
Rovers
I
falling.
stand corrected then. I mean, I don't think Northampton are going to get relegated, put it
I
that way.
don't think so, no.
Um,
But they do have Nesta
they
Guinness Walker at left mid, so they are going to get attacked down that flank by Chem Campbell on Saturday.
they do. We seem to keep all our previews exactly the same. Maybe we should mix it up next season. I don't know. Maybe we should get someone else on to talk about their club. I'm not sure. Anyway, um, it's a game that we should win, isn't it? Really?
I mean, yeah, I think most of the games left now, we kind of have to. I think Reading have to keep winning now to keep the pressure up. And like we talked last week about how, while we were outside of the playoffs, maybe it's a little bit
Mm.
easier to chase and get in. And so now we're in the opposite position to that, right? So I've got to kind of put the shoe on the other foot, as it were. But I think we just need to keep winning now. We just need to keep putting points on the board. I've been really encouraged by Reading scoring 3 goals in what is it? So it's 2 of their last 5 that they've scored 3 goals in now, and I think it may even have been more. I'm trying to pull up the recent list of fixtures here, but we scored 3 against Shrewsbury, we scored 3 against Peterborough. So I guess we didn't score 3 anytime more recent. But anyway, good to see 2 games in the last 5 with 3 goals. So I talked about before, that's what we need to start doing more frequently if we're going to kick on, is to actually put teams to bed. And we did that against Shrewsbury, which was good to see. So yeah, I think another win really is all we can be looking for.
Northampton seem to be all right away, but not too hot at home, ironically. I mean, to be fair to them, from the 15th of March, so what's that, about a month ago, they drew with Birmingham 1-1. They then lost to Blackpool at home. They then drew with Cambridge away. They lost at home to Rotherham. They then beat Peterborough 4-0 away
Yeah,
from
that's an
home.
odd one, isn't it? Yeah.
That's an outlier, that one. I mean,
Yeah.
Peterborough were down to 10 men, but
Peterborough
blah,
can't
blah,
defend for anything, though, to be fair. Like we
unfortunately.
saw that recently. They are rubbish at
Top
defending.
heavy.
Yeah. They
Um,
live and die by the sword.
yeah. And then they have us on Saturday. Um, Charlton
Nightmare.
away on Good Friday, and then Shrewsbury at home, who will be relegated by then. Well, I mean they are relegated pretty much, aren't they?
Pretty much.
At home, uh, Crawley Town away, and then they finish the season against Wigan at home, which possibly the phrase "dead rubber" was invented for that fixture because at the moment they're both on level points. So, that could really be a kind of you score, we score kind of game.
Yeah, yeah,
We'll see. But look, I mean, the home form is not, doesn't look the best looking at previous results.
yeah.
They look like they're really struggling at home, to be honest with you. Only picked up a couple of wins at home this calendar year.
Yeah.
So,
And they
yeah,
can't
look, I mean,
score. They're
they
only
can't
scoring
score.
about a goal a game on average. So look, I think Reading need to just like keep pushing for goals in the way that they did. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a similar game to the one that we did against Shrewsbury because look, you're at home, you've got your fans behind you, however many of them still show up this late in the season if you're not playing
Yeah.
well. And you want to put in a performance for them. So they're, again, talking about how long a game is. There's going to be a 20 to 30-minute period where they have a lot of the ball and they get some chances. Reading need to take their opportunities, get to, 2 goals, get to 3 goals as quickly as possible, or just take the most of their opportunities. And they should have more than enough for this game. Because again, our quality level is just so much higher. We remember Nestor and how he played for us. He was okay, and in this team, he started half the games. So, we have the quality that can beat this team. We should be getting them. We should be beating them. I remember a pretty poor performance in this fixture last season. I think we lost 3 or 4. I can't remember. But it just needs to be more of what we saw against Shrewsbury. Just get the job done, weather the storms, take the 3 points, and get on with it.
I mean, last 6 games, they picked up 8 points. They're 12th in the form table over the last 6 games. For context, we're fifth, 13 points from the last 6 games.
Yeah.
Top of that table is Birmingham, 16 points
They
from
don't
six.
count. They're a championship club hanging out down here.
Effectively, apart from goal difference, we're effectively joint second because it's us, Charlton,
Yeah.
Wrexham, Stockport, all on 13 from the last 6. So, yeah, look, you would anticipate it's sold out away end again, by the way, which is not a surprise. It's been phenomenal, the back end from the fans away, particularly away this season. So it's a game that you would expect that, this time next week we're talking about it. We'll see. Couple of points before we go. Reading under 21s are in action twice over this coming weekend. They played Manchester United at home on Friday, 7 o'clock, Friday the 11th, and they're back at home on the 14th on Monday against Brighton Hove Albion under 21. So good end to the season for them at the SCL. And kind of pre-warning, we're going to have the under 18s coach on with us, Harrison Gilks, next week to talk about their upcoming final, Premier League final against West Ham United on the 22nd of April. So you got any questions or anything you want us to put to Harrison about the under 18s? Any prospects that he thinks might, make it overall in terms of the next first team debut from that group? Let us know. He will be with us. I think we said next Wednesday because we got game next Tuesday.
I don't even know. I just they're coming thick and fast at this point. I was just thinking that we must be coming into the Easter bank holiday smorgasbord of soccer as well. So
We
yeah.
haven't because we play on a Friday. Just
Oh,
remembered.
well, there you go. There you
So
go.
yeah, we're back next Wednesday. We'll be here hopefully to talk about a win against Northampton. Ross, have a good rest of your early evening
Thank
into your
you. Enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy the 2 points clear in the playoffs, Reading fans.
exactly buzzing for that. Have a really good rest of your week, everybody. We go again Saturday. We keep going.
And
As
we go
always,
hard.
we go hard. Yeah, exactly. That was a great interview. That was a great interview. That was Pauno, by the way, in case you didn't get the reference.
I hope
Can't
they
even
get the
remember who said it
reference.
against,
They get the
but
reference on this pod. Don't worry.
yeah, hopefully. Have a good week, everybody. All the best, and we'll see you soon. Come on, you odds.